traits guy. Arm size. I don't care about your college record. I really don't. I think arm strength, it's got to be good. It doesn't have to be Josh Allen or Caleb Williams. But one of the things I've always docked points from for quarterbacks is if you're trying to be cool. Shador, Johnny Manziel, Drew Lock, Cam Newton, Jay Cutler had it. Cool. Guys trying to be cool are saying, look at me. People that are collaborative are saying, look at us. I like look at us guys. And so when people bang on Fernando Mendoza, they say he's like quirky and it's a little cringy and it's a little nerdy. And my take is like Peyton Manning and Brady when they were playing mostly. I mean, Tom pre-Tampa was almost dorky the way he was obsessed. He was a good-looking guy, but he was just obsessed with football. Like, hey, I'm not going to have a beer during the season. Andrew Luck loved him. You know, you can say what you want about Kirk Cousins. He threw for 45,000 yards. Cam Newton threw for a little over 30. One was cool, one wasn't. So I was asking Matt Hasselbeck yesterday about Fernando Mendoza, and some people are put off by his hyper-optimistic personality, and here's what Matt said.
This is what works in a locker room, okay? Excellence at your job. If you're able to be the best in the world at what you do, we respect that. The locker room respects that. The other thing is your work ethic. We just respect that. I don't care what locker room you're in, we respect that. You're giving it everything that you have. And then, you know, the other thing is just the authenticity. Don't be one guy over here and another guy over there. Lean into who you actually are and just be authentic with that. And the locker room will love you. The fan base will love you. Just strive to be the best quarterback that you can be. All this other nonsense, like that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about.
Being a successful quarterback in this league, a lot of it is caring about the right things. Yeah, Johnny Manziel, distracted. Cam Newton, brilliantly talented, kind of distracted. You got to care about the right stuff. So the combine starts this week, Thursday, and everybody's nitpicking all these guys. Mendoza's not going to throw. He shouldn't throw. Nobody questions his accuracy or arm strength or size. He doesn't need to throw. He'll ace the interviews because he's so grateful and has so much humility. But more than anything, he just cares about the right stuff. He's just an authentic, grateful kid that cares about the right stuff. Here is Raiders GM John Spytek on what they look for. Who would that be in a franchise quarterback?
A leader, tough as hell, somebody that loves to play football, maniacal preparer. Obviously, somebody that can throw the ball well, but I think just somebody that loves the game and will give everything to their teammate. You know, a selfless person, somebody that's going to give their team everything that they got every time that they're out there, prepare the right way, lead the right way. I think there's a great humility and selflessness required to play that position at a high level.
Yeah.
We desperately need the NFL draft to arrive as soon as possible. That's the only conclusion I can draw from the current state of football discourse, because we are genuinely reaching for conversation topics at this point. We've descended to the level of asking random general managers, what do you value in a quarterback? And they respond with generic platitudes. We want someone who genuinely cares. We want someone dedicated, selfless, committed to the team. Okay, cool. That's insightful. Meanwhile, there's this constant, never-ending conversation about Fernando Mendoza's personality. Apparently, he's quirky, or cheesy, or cringe. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. I genuinely am. I'm going to lose my mind over this. This is such an invented narrative. It truly is. It is such a manufactured conversation, completely disconnected from reality. I promise you, the people actually in the locker room, the men who suit up alongside him every day, don't think about this the way media personalities do. Even if they don't personally resonate with his particular brand of enthusiasm. Even if they privately think it's a little cheesy or somewhat over the top. The reality is that they'll respond to it. They'll engage with it. They'll even mess around with him, tease him about it, have fun with it in the way teammates do. As long as he puts in the work. As long as he actually performs on the field. If he's a terrible quarterback, then sure, all bets are off. Then everything becomes a problem. But if the dude can compete, if he can hold his own when the lights are brightest, if the foundation of who he is simply being a good person, a genuinely good dude, then any other aspect of his personality just gets absorbed. It gets rounded out by the group dynamic. It becomes part of the background noise, part of the conversations that happen naturally in the locker room. If you like weird music, great. If you play your music too loud, fine. If you watch Venezuelan soap operas in your free time, whatever. It just becomes part of the texture of the room. It becomes material for the jokes, the ribbing, the camaraderie that defines team chemistry. Right now, if you're not competing, if you're not performing well enough on the field, and you happen to have a cheesy personality similar to Mendoza's, but you're also not actually a good person at your core, then you start to feel the inauthenticity. People sense it. Then yes, all of those quirks become problems. They become magnified. But if you compete, if you're just good enough, you don't even have to be elite. You don't have to be the best to ever do it. But if you're just good enough, okay, and the foundation of your character is solid, you're just a good person who doesn't rub people the wrong way, then any other dimension of your personality is fair game. It's just personality. It's just who you are. If you think everyone in a locker room shares the same personality, you haven't spent much time in locker rooms. You haven't been around many teams. Things get weird when you're just not a good person, and you can feel it. We're all humans. We all know when we're interacting with someone we genuinely like versus someone we don't. You've all been in social situations, hung out with different friend groups, met new people, attended random parties, and encountered someone taking up an excessive amount of space. You get this instinctive sense, I don't know about that guy. You start putting up invisible boundaries. You think to yourself, I don't want that guy using the bathroom upstairs. No, you're not going up there. Use the bathroom downstairs. You're not wandering around upstairs. Get back down here. You just feel it. You just sense it on an instinctual level. There's no rational explanation, but the feeling is unmistakable. So all these conversations surrounding Mendoza's personality are just kind of funny to me. They're starting to drive me a little bit crazy, honestly, for so many different reasons. But the underlying reality is straightforward. When you can ball and you're a good person at your core, everything else becomes irrelevant. You could be the cheesiest individual on the planet. You could have the weirdest, most eccentric taste in music, movies, and television shows. And it just becomes part of the story. It becomes part of the legend. It gets absorbed into the team's collective identity. But again, the foundation has to be getting work done on the field. That's non-negotiable. This is where I think Russell Wilson went wrong. Because you could point to Russ and say, well, Russ is cheesy and he wasn't completely embraced in his locker rooms. And the response to that is, teammates sensed an inauthenticity around Russ. That was the core issue. It felt fake. It felt too manicured, too rehearsed, too carefully constructed. There was a performative element that didn't align with who he actually was. And because we can use examples of players who had problems with him, whether it was Marshawn Lynch or Richard Sherman, we can see the pattern. You bring Mendoza into that same locker room, and Richard Sherman would get along with him in a heartbeat. Why? Because it's real. Because authenticity is recognizable. Because you can have a completely different personality, different levels of intensity, different interests, different backgrounds, different life experiences. But if it's genuine, if it's authentic, that transcends all those surface-level differences. That's what matters. That's the through line. And I think that's what Hasselbeck was emphasizing as well. So the entire premise of having this conversation about Mendoza's personality, people actually commenting on his personality as if it's a relevant factor, is absurd. Oh my gosh, you people are analyzing his personality because we have nothing else to discuss. There's no real debate left. Should they draft Mendoza number 1? Should it be someone else? We all know it's going to be Mendoza. So now the media machine is trying to figure out how to keep talking about him, and they've landed on personality as the angle. For what it's worth, I was way more concerned about Caleb Williams' personality than I've ever been about Mendoza's. And it's not like I had some enormous problem with Caleb, or with Shedder Sanders, or with Will Levis, whom Colin famously criticized quite loudly regarding what he brought to the table. There's something I want to add here, and I almost forgot to mention it. Colin touched on this, but I don't think he fully captured the nuance. The whole dynamic where players try to bring attention to themselves, where they exhibit certain behaviors that seem attention-seeking. Some of that mentality actually stems from insecurity. It's not always, hey, look at me, I want all the attention. Sometimes it is, certainly. Plenty of times it's exactly that. But plenty of other times, it's actually insecurity. It's fear. At its core, It's not confidence. It's discomfort. It's not being comfortable in your own skin. When I was at my highest levels of cockiness, when I was at the most conceited point in my life, I was easily the most insecure and the most uncomfortable in my own skin. And I was still a team player. I still said all the right things and did all the right things publicly. But in other aspects of my life, in private moments, I was just so uncomfortable. So deeply uncomfortable. Maybe it's overcompensation. Maybe it's trying to speak something into existence that you don't actually believe. Maybe it's because the alternative, just being yourself, feels too small, too insignificant, so you inflate yourself artificially. I haven't thought about it extensively, honestly, but it's very obvious to me now. It's very clear that so much of that behavior comes from just insecurity, insecurity, insecurity. And there's an uncomfortableness in your own skin that drives it. So it's important to parse that out, to distinguish between when someone is actually just a little narcissistic, a little egotistical, versus when someone is operating from insecurity and discomfort. Because those are different things. They can perceive the same way from the outside. They can present similarly, but they are different. They are fundamentally different. And that's what you learn in interview processes. That's what you discover through genuine conversations and extended discussions. You ask, do you actually truly believe you're God's gift to this world? Do you genuinely believe you're that guy? That you're inevitable? That success is your birthright? Or are you just a little uncomfortable in your own skin, and we need to help you cut through that, help you mature, help you find what's authentic to you? A significant part of that is simply growing up. A significant part is the maturation process. I think about this now, and I'll conclude with this thought. It's a bit of a silly segue, but it lands for me because locker rooms have all different types of music playing. I love all different types of music. I can listen to anything. I'm the type of person who can walk into a locker room and connect with each individual group, each little lunch table, and it feels like I'm part of that position group, part of that culture. But I can't say I would have had the confidence to navigate that environment earlier in my life. Now I can cut through all the illusions, all the tricks that different group dynamics can play on you. But I couldn't have done that before. I would have been constantly trying to perform, trying to figure out what other people wanted, what would land well, what they expected from me. Now it's just about being comfortable in your own skin and having confidence in your own personality. Just being able to say, yeah, I know I'm a little cheesy. Yeah, I know I'm overly optimistic. Yeah, I know I listen to some weird music. Hey, I love it. I'm not judging anyone else. You just recognize that we all have differences. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different personalities. This is just who I am. And you just rock with it. You just run with it. That's actually where real confidence comes from. Confidence comes from your own acceptance, your own understanding that we're all kind of different. We're all kind of quirky. And I'm just comfortable, truly comfortable, in my own skin. Not the fake comfort where you declare, yeah, I'm a jerk. This is who I am. Because that's still overcompensation. That's still insecurity wearing a mask. When you have real confidence, real comfortableness, it may not present exactly like Mendoza. He's kind of off the charts with his particular brand of enthusiasm. But it's certainly closer to that than it is to a Will Levis or a Shadir. To me, when you're just comfortable in that way, it can be contagious. That can spread through a locker room. And I think that has the genuine opportunity to build something positive, to establish a culture that sustains itself. Those are simply my perspectives on the matter. I'm genuinely interested in hearing your thoughts. What's your assessment of this never-ending conversation about Fernando Mendoza's personality and his so-called quirkiness? Share your opinions in the comments below. I read every single response, whether you agree with my analysis or you're ready to challenge it. Either way, let's generate some meaningful discussion. Let's engage in some spirited debates. But most importantly, let's keep it enjoyable. And please, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. We're cultivating an incredible community here, and I genuinely value having you as part of it. My goal is to build something that fosters genuine connection, something we're all truly excited to contribute to. I believe we're making substantial progress toward that vision. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It significantly enhances visibility and supports the algorithm. Thank you so much for your continued support. I'll see you in the next one.